Hello, my name is Joel Cherico and I make pottery. And if you've ever seen any of the videos I've done, most of the time I'm on the pottery wheel or glazing or unloading a kiln full of pottery. And this video is going to be a little different. I've been filming live videos for about 4 or 5 years now, 10 videos per month nonstop. But I'm going to switch it up this month because in a few days I'm actually going in for a knee surgery. So I'll be hung up for a while. It's nothing too crazy, ACL reconstruction, but it needs to be done. So if you've seen me make pottery, you know I use kick wheels. Well, I'm not going to be able to kick the wheel for a little while. So I'm going to take the month of December, take the month off, and instead of doing 10 live videos, I'm going to do 5 pre-recorded videos where I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to tell stories about something specific to a certain style of pottery or a few different things, some books that inspire my work and some reasons why I make the pots I make. So without further ado, let's get started. The first video here is called How I Got into Pottery. So the theme is why I decided to make a living as a potter and how I got started in pottery. In case you've ever thought of making pottery yourself, this might give you some tips and perspective on what it's like to wake up every day and think about coffee mugs. So it started in high school. It was 2006, and I really learned glaze chemistry in high school. I was very lucky that our teacher made me mix my own glazes, because I've heard potters say that anyone can make mugs and cups, but your glazes will set you apart. And this book was right across from my pottery wheel for the entire senior year when I really got into pottery. And this is my copy. But just that image, right? Seeing a potter, his name is Richard Bresnahan, and seeing him at the wheel throwing pottery off of a mound of clay, these really skillful pitchers. That's what stuck out to me, is just the skill involved, that just no words were needed to see, like, wow, how do you do that? And see that pottery wheel? That's a kick wheel. Like, I'd never seen anything like that when I was just starting out in my first beginner class. And the more I looked at this book, I didn't really read much in high school. The more I realized, like, you can learn so much just through a visual language, just through seeing images and pictures and shapes. And so I was just blown away. This book, the original copy I had, was covered in clay. I don't have it anymore, but it's because it just sat across from my wheel as I was making pottery. I just copied things. Notice these lines in this pot here. Those are from the fingers of Richard dipping the pot down into a bucket of glaze. So leaving the finger marks, like you'd never see something like that if you go buy a coffee mug at a store. So I went to college trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, 18 years old. And I knew how to make pottery, but I wanted to be a doctor. And I was in science classes, biology and chemistry, and I was getting Fs. I was failing, and I hated it. And I was like, okay, maybe this whole pre-med thing isn't for me. And I was getting straight A's in art classes, and I loved it. And I think it was because I had a foundation in pottery. I had taken a bunch of classes just over and over again. I made about 100 pieces of pottery. And my teacher at the time, this is actually him, Sam Johnson. That's what I was looking for. He studied with Richard Bresnahan, this potter. Sam studied with him for 4 years. And I had Sam coincidentally as like in my first art class. I said, Sam, like, what's it like to like make a living as a college professor? That's what you do, right? He's like, well, yeah, but people make pottery and make a living that way too. Richard, he studied with potters in Japan, and he studied there for 4 years. Sam studied with Richard in an apprenticeship for 4 years. And I was like, okay, I've got college, I've got 4 years. Maybe I could treat it kind of like an apprenticeship. I told Sam that, and he said, well, if you want to be an art major and, learn the types of pottery that I make, that he learned from Richard Bresnahan, all the types of pottery in this book that Richard learned in Japan from a 13th generation potter, back 13 generations of potters, Sam said, we could do that. You got to work really hard. You work like 80 hours a week, but most college kids work like that anyways. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna try to figure that out. I heard another teacher say once, the first 10,000 pots you make are really tough, and then it gets a little easier. And that's literally just true. Like, I made maybe half that in college, maybe 5,000 pieces, and you got to make a lot of bad pots. Today I've made like 30,000 pieces of pottery maybe. And so the goal is always that the newest pot that you make, the newest pot you pull out of the kiln is always the best. That's a goal that I decided for myself a long time ago. And I always pull one pot out of the kiln to keep. I call it a jewel, where I keep it for my personal collection. And it's like the pot that you want to let guide you when you're making the rest of your art. Like this book is just filled with jewels though. For example, this teapot, this is in the Minneapolis Institute of Art. Like it's behind glass in a museum. Try not to be too slow here, but just to see glazes where you're just like, wow, to see things that are happening naturally. Even if see the bottom of this pot here, it's kind of rough, right? There's a lot of chips, and even if it's kind of weird, there's something about it that just makes you say, wow. So the technical quality of Richard's pots, that's what blew me away. And so today, like, this is what I call a Neptune mug. So I call this one of my jewels, but like every firing, I'm trying to make top to bottom, the whole kiln full of jewels. That's the goal. And so this mug, I decided to talk about it today because it's the most technically difficult thing I've ever done. Hanging in the kiln like this. I have to fire 2 at a time, counterbalance, to get the drips that happen in the kiln firing horizontally. To get a drip to move horizontally, you have to defy gravity at 2,400 degrees. And that's what this book initially inspired me to do. Do things technically difficult to give the art a sense of, wow, how did they do that? So this mug, I'm going to give it away today at the end of this video. It's worth about $700. And people hear that and sometimes they think like, well, what makes a coffee mug worth $700? There's a story of Picasso. You probably heard of Picasso, the painter, where it's kind of a legend now. Who knows if the details are true, but he was sitting at a cafe and he made, a woman came up and asked him to do a drawing. And he said, sure. And he'd made a little drawing on a napkin. And she was like, or I think he was already doing the drawing. She said, wow, look at that. Can I buy that from you? And he said, sure. And he asked for kind of a high sum of money, maybe it was $100, maybe it was $1,000. He was Picasso. And she was like, what? It took you 10 seconds to make that. He said, no, ma'am, it took me 40 years to make this. And he crumpled up the napkin, put it in his pocket, and walked away. That's what it was worth to Picasso. So all that is to say that this mug wouldn't exist without the 30,000 pots that led to this one that I made to be able to create this. But also, I don't charge that much for all my art. This one in particular was also technically very difficult. It took up a lot of space in the kiln. The glazes had to be applied very tediously. This dry spot had to be wiped away, then reapplied so it's dry from where it's touching, because everything else, when it's liquid, if it's touching, it's going to stick. So it's a balance when you think about pricing like that. Okay, well, without further ado, I'm going to end this video. And like I said, I'm going to give this mug away. So I picked one person. I call these surprise gifts sometimes, just a surprise gift to give someone. So I'm going to give this to John Goodman. I've noticed you in a lot of Facebook videos, John. I noticed you're a patron of ours at patreon.com/ChericoPottery, which is a huge way to support the art. It's really valuable to us. So thank you, John, for being a patron. We already have your address because you're a patron. So you will have an email waiting in your inbox that says that we're mailing this to your address for free. And I've got another copy of Body of Clay, Soul of Fire, unopened copy. This book is valuable. They're available, but it's not like widely in print. But it had a huge influence on me. So hey, John, I'm going to send you this book and this mug for free. We'll have our team pack and ship it and send it off to you. And if you're if you're a patron or if you're not a patron and you're just watching this, thank you for taking the time to learn about my art. I appreciate it. And I'm not going to be a ghost for this next month. I'm still going to be watching all the social media and talking to people, but I won't be doing live videos. If you also patrons, just one more announcement. Christmas cards going out, so we've got them. We're going to mail them out. This is our annual Christmas card. It says, what a year, and some photos of our little family, our cat and our lizard, and my wife Sienna, and some of the handmade paper that she's working on. And future baby Cherico. So these will be sent out to patrons. This costs like $1,000 for us to do. I mean, we have to pay for all the postage and all these prints. There's over 800 people. So we're always like, okay, it's a big, should we do it? Should we do something digital? But it's nice to have something in person. So we're committed to making things fun. If you're a patron, we really appreciate you, and you're going to get one of these in the mail, every single one of you. That's all I got. So thanks for watching. Hope everyone has a great holiday season, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Okay, bye.